Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and in today's short lesson we're going to be learning the intro to one of Pink Floyd's most beloved songs, Wish You Were Here, the abridged version I've just played you. Wish You Were Here is in the key of G major, and its intro cleverly combines three chords with a few simple yet catchy single note lines that neatly tie the chords together while creating an instantly memorable melody. Wish You Were Here is the title track to Pink Floyd's 1975 album of the same name, this one right here. It was the band's 9th studio release on the follow-up to their timeless 1973 masterpiece, Dark Side of the Moon. The iconic introduction to the song was performed on a 12-string guitar which was recorded in such a way that it sounded like it was being played through an old AM radio. We're going to learn it on a 6-string acoustic minus the sounds like a radio studio trickery. The intro only uses 3 open chord shapes, E7, G, and A7 sus4, a chord with a name that makes it sound a lot harder than it really is. As you've just seen, all 3 chords use all 4 fingers of your fretboard hand. But don't fret! They're really easy to finger and change because your pinky and ring finger never have to move. They literally stay on the 3rd fret of the high E and B strings respectively for the whole darned intro. Just so you know, in addition to the chord windows you're seeing on the screen, there's also a link to a short article on the Wish You Were Here intro that has all the chord windows in it. And that link is right below. Let's quickly make sure you're fingering this trio of chords correctly, shall we? To finger the E7 shape, you do the following. You put your first finger at the 2nd fret on the A string. Then you put your second finger, your middle finger, at the same fret but on the D string. The G string is open. And then, as just mentioned, your ring finger is at the 3rd fret of the B string, while your pinky is at the 3rd fret on the high E string. 2, 2, open, 3, 3, low E open. Please try and always remember this fact. Your pinky and your ring finger do not move from the 3rd frets of the high E and B string respectively. It'll make your life much easier when learning and playing this song, I promise you. Try and imagine that some really nasty person you know put super glue on the fingertips of these 2 fingers so they're stuck in that position. Incidentally, as you've probably noticed, there's an alternative fingering shown on this chord diagram. While most guitarists I know use their ring finger and pinky for the notes at the 3rd fret on the B and high E strings respectively, I don't. Instead, I tend to bar these 2 strings at the 3rd fret with my pinky as indicated in the alternative fingering under the chord window. And the same is true for the other 3 chords. Try both fingerings and see which one works best for you. That said, back to the plot. Incidentally, on the recorded version of Wish You Were Here, it sounds like only the top 3 or 4 strings of this chord are being strummed, like this. This said, while I try and do this while I'm playing the intro, I always finger the full chord like this. That way, if I accidentally hit a lower string or 2, it still sounds good. Hear what I mean? I was hitting a few lower strings there, and it sounded fine, to my ears anyway. Our next chord is G, and it's one of the first open chords we all learn. This one right here. 2nd finger at the 3rd fret of low E, 1st finger at the 2nd fret of the A string, D and G strings open, and yes, you've guessed it, ring and pinky stuck at the 3rd frets of the B and high E strings respectively. In fact, to move from E7 to G is real simple. All I do is move my 2nd finger from the 2nd fret on the D string to the 3rd fret on the low E. My 1st, 3rd, and 4th fingers stay exactly where they are. Nice! Some transcriptions and lessons of this intro have you playing an open G5 chord like this, instead of the chord I've just shown you, which is this. To play the G5 power chord as opposed to the full G open chord, all you do is this. You don't play the B note at the 2nd fret on the A string with your 1st finger like this. Instead, you lift your 1st finger off and angle your 2nd finger down so it's muting the A string like this. See, the underside of my finger is muting it. I personally prefer the sound of this, but this sounds cool too. So take your pick, or mix and match. whatever you wish, it's all good. As for the A7 sus4 chord, well, firstly, you obviously play the open A string, like this. Imagine that. Then you put your first finger at the second fret of the D string and your middle finger at the same exact fret, except this time on the G string, like this. Then, as we already have our ring and pinky digits at the designated spots at the third fret on the B and high E strings respectively, hey presto, we have the A7 sus4 chord. Now, to avoid hitting the low open E string by accident, I invariably bring my thumb up and mute it like this. That way, if I hit it, you can't hear it. Nice. No harm, no foul. Without the mute, it would sound like this. Maybe good for a Metallica ballad, but not this particular song. The thumb mute gets rid of that unwanted low-end clutter. As you've probably already ascertained, switching between E7 and A7 sus4 is a breeze. You just move your first and second fingers together as a pair, up or down a string, depending on which of the two shapes you're going to next. So, I like it. Once again, some transcriptions and lessons I've seen have you fretting the A7 sus4 chord like this. To finger this shape, all you do is lift up your second finger so the G string rings open like this. As was the case with the G chord option, both variants sound good. So, once again, pick the one you like the best or mix and match. I personally prefer the 4-finger version. Well, today anyway, but sometimes I do play this one. It's got a nice ring to it. Now we know the 3 chord shapes, let's learn the simple runs or riffs that link them. And just so you know, they all use the notes from the G major pentatonic scale that goes like this. As its pentatonic name tells us, this simple scale consists of a mere 5 notes, as pent is Greek for 5. And, in case you're interested, the 5 notes in question are as follows. The G note at the 3rd fret on the low E string, the open A string note, the B string note at the 2nd fret of the A string, the open D string note, and finally the E note at the 2nd fret on the D string. This brings us neatly to the open G string note, the root note an octave higher. So we're literally going from G to G. Back to G. We're going to open up with a 5-note run which quite literally ascends the G major pentatonic scale we've just gone over, this one right here. Before we learn this run though, let's make sure our ring and pinky fingers are in position at the 3rd frets of the B and high E strings respectively. Remember, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, they don't move from there, they're super glued at that spot. The first note is the G note at the 3rd fret of the low E string, which we'll fret with our middle finger, just like this. This is then followed by the open A string note and then a hammer onto the 2nd fret of the A string with your first finger, like this. So our first 3 notes are these. The last 2 notes in our intro are the open D string note, followed by the E string note at the 2nd fret of the same string. As you can see, I'm fretting this E note with my middle finger like this, rather than with my first finger like this. I do this so my hand is primed and ready to play the E7 chord, which immediately follows that single E note, just like this. The strum pattern I use on the E7 is down, down, up, up, down, just like this. There are some very cool rhythmical strumming variations on the recorded version, but I like to keep it simple. Once you've mastered the simple version I'm teaching you, experiment with some different strumming patterns. Just make sure you get to the next riff on time. That said, so far we've got this. Incidentally, I have a confession to make. I added an extra note to the start. If you want to mimic the start of the recorded version exactly, you don't play the G note at the very start like I just showed you. Instead, you just play the last 4 notes of the 5 I showed you, like this. Once again, take your pick. I just personally really like hearing that G note at the very start, so that's why I did it. If you don't like it, sue me! Anyways, next up is a 3-note descending lick that leads us nicely into the next chord, which is G. That descending run goes like this. The open G string note, E note at the 2nd fret on the D string, open D string note like this. And those 3 notes are then followed by an open G chord just like this. Make sense? And the keep it simple strumming pattern I used on the G chord is this. Down, down, up, up, just like this. If I add what we've just learned to the start, we've got this. Next up, all we do is repeat what we've just learned. And remember, don't even think about moving your ring and pinky fingers from their assigned positions. It's illegal. They're stuck there. So with the repeat, we have the following. And again, a little slower. We're going to call this the halfway stage. Yes, my friend, we're already 50% there. Good stuff. Let's learn the second half of this epic intro, shall we? And as per usual, we're going to do it in a couple of bite-sized chunks. Our second half starts with another piece of deja vu because we once again repeat our good old 5-note ascent into the E-7 chord. This time though, when we reach the E-7 chord, we do a down, down, up, up strung pattern, not down, down, up, down like before. So instead, this time we do this. Got it? Down, down, up, up. Having done this, it's now time to learn a new descending run into our next chord, which is going to be our A7 sus4. And this time, the descent down the G major pentatonic scale is a 4-note one, which goes like this. So it's the 2nd fret note on the D string to the open D string note, and then the exact same thing on the A string. 2nd fret to open, like this. And because we played the E-7 shape right before it, our middle and first fingers are already primed and ready in the right place to do this run. Then, right after this run, we go into our A7 sus4 shape. Thanks to the preceding E-7 chord shape, our pointer and middle fingers are already lurking in the right place, making the A7 sus4 shape an easy touchdown. So we go. Nice. The strumming pattern I do on the A7 sus4 chord is another easy to play and remember one. Down, down, up, down, just like this. So if we tag this strum pattern onto what we've learned so far for the second half of the song, we have this. One more time, a little slower. Now, the remainder of the second half is pretty much identical to the parts we've just learned, except for 2 things. Firstly, we don't play the G note on the low E string on our climb back to the E-7 chord again. Instead, we just do this. And one more time. As you can see in here, we're just playing the last 4 notes of the 5-note ascent we learnt earlier. Then secondly, to finish this abridged intro just like I did at the very start, all you do is this. All I'm doing there is the following. I'm simply picking the open A string note, then hammering onto the second fret of it before picking the open A string note once again, before ending with a single strum of the open G chord, just like this. This means that our second time through the E-7 to A sus4 chord progression goes like this. And so, my friend, ends this quick lesson on my abridged version of the classic Pink Floyd intro to Wish You Were Here. Have fun with this one, and oh yeah, if you'd like me to do a future lesson on the tasty acoustic lead break Mr. Gilmour plays at the very start of this epic song, please let me know in the comments below. Oh, in case you're interested, the guitar I used for this is a highly affordable Luna I literally grabbed off the wall from the Sweetwater store before filming this video. And I ran it through the acoustic channel of a Boss Katana Mark II 50-watt combo with just a smidgen of chorus and reverb added for good measure. Links to both of these products can be found below. That said, I'm out. See ya! Thank you so very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, nicely please, and also subscribe. Click here for more videos like this, and go to sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. Au revoir.